Good morning, everybody. It's just a few minutes before 10 o'clock, and I just wanted to come on and welcome everyone to Banter with Beth. We have an amazing guest coming on this morning. I'm so excited to share the details about this extraordinary musician, Xiang Gao. And before I bring Xiang Gao onto our Banter with Beth, I just want to tell everybody how grateful I am that during this holiday season that you guys are tuning in. And good morning, Jeremy, and checking out what we have to offer. Would You Hide Me is a film that I've been working on for the last 3 years. It's near and dear to my heart, and it's the story of 7 Jewish siblings who were hidden for 2 years outside of Berlin during World War II. We are banging the drum loud, fast, and hard in terms of our fundraising efforts. We're so grateful to everybody who has donated so far. Thank you for helping us take our story from the edit suite to what we hope will be the big screen, whether it's virtual or in a theater. And good morning, Ken. It's nice to see you here this morning. But without further ado, I want to bring on our incredible guest, Xiang Gao. Xiang Gao is recognized as one of the world's foremost violinists, composers. Oh, here he is. He's viewing a request. Great. Okay, let's see here. Xiang, you're going to come on. We are. Let's see if it's working. We're waiting for Xiang. He's an educator. He's a performing arts administrator. Here you are. Good morning, Xiang. How are you this morning?
I'm good, Beth. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. It's a pleasure to have you this morning, and I'm really excited that on the call, not talking with us, but in our audience today is one of our favorite people on the planet. I'm sure you can imagine who that is.
Our friend Ken.
Yes. Yeah. So
Ken Fisher, the legendary, amazing presenting legend, really. So I'm really happy he's here.
Absolutely. As am I. And it's the connections, it's the networking. It all brings us back to the stories that we're all telling about how we support each other, how we work together as a community. And I was just introducing you to everybody who's going to be watching us this morning, but you are an extraordinary classical musician in your own right. You're a professor, you're an arts administrator, you are a composer now of a musical, which is, you know, kind of a pretty divergent path away from classical music that you've been doing for so many years, right?
Yeah.
So that's really, really exciting. Now, I hear kind of, I don't know if there's kind of a funny feedback in the sound. Do you hear the feedback in the sound?
I don't hear any feedback.
Okay, good. All right. So who knows? Maybe it's mine. But what I want to ask you right off the bat is how this brainchild of yours, Shanghai Sonatas, which is the piece that we're going to talk about today. Tell us about Shanghai Sonatas and tell us how you even came to learn the story that brought you to the place where you are today.
Yes. First of all, thank you to everyone for being here. I'm a classically trained violinist, born and raised in China. I call my mother country. Came to the United States to study at University of Michigan in Ann Arbor.
Go blue, of course.
Yes.
Because you know that's my alma mater also.
Oh, wonderful. Go blue. Let's not talk about football yet.
Right.
So, yeah, and then my love for the musical theater art form started in Ann Arbor. You know, they have an amazing program there. And I've always enjoyed Broadway musicals and storytelling. And I call the United States my father country, you know, where I have my career, family, and all my adult life friends. And I have an American family who adopted me, in many ways supported me. And I've spent a lot of Jewish holidays with them. They're Jewish people. But it wasn't because of that. It was because 5 years ago, I went to Shanghai with a group of friends and then to visit the historical sites. And then a few of the members were Jewish Americans. And they said, Xiang, let's go visit this museum that we all know about. I had no idea. And then we went and visited. And the then director, now also the director curator, Mr. Chen, said, I don't see a lot of Chinese people here. What do you do? You're a violinist? Okay, so you should learn more about the Jewish refugee musicians who came here in the 1930s. I think you'd be surprised. And then my journey started then. And now, after 4 or 5 years of research, creating this musical and all the interviews and experiences, I learned that there's an interconnection between the Jewish refugee who went to Shanghai, the only place that accepted them during the war, um, and between those people, those wonderful 200 plus musicians, and the 60 million classical musicians in the world from China or of Chinese descent. I'm one of them. If you go to major orchestras, concerts, you look at the roster of the members, you see many names of similar to my, spelling with Q and X, and and then you go to conservatories, major conservatories, universities, and there's more and more classical musicians out of China than any other country combined. So, and then Juilliard just opened its only an overseas campus last year in Tianjin, China. The Philadelphia Orchestra travels to China, every single year as the official ensemble in residence for the National Performing Arts Center. So I start to connect the dots between these amazing musicians in the Shanghai ghetto and the Chinese performers, classical musicians in the world.
I mean, I'm blown away by the fact that, first of all, let's talk about the fact that during World War II, China opened its doors to refugees. This is a big deal because not everybody was opening their doors to refugees. So they welcomed 20,000 refugees, Jewish refugees, to China. And what I'm learning about that I never knew from your musical is that it is the Jewish musicians who are responsible for training the first generation of Chinese classical musicians. Is that true?
Yeah, the first serious generation. I mean, prior to their arrival, there were some Russian Jews, from the north. They went to Harbin and then down to Shanghai. But it's not until these serious, top-notch classical musicians from Austria and Germany, Jewish refugees, who actually taught seriously at the first generation of Chinese musicians. This is 75 years ago, and I found the story to be incredibly powerful, universal. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the world is so divided right now, and humans continue to make the same mistakes, over and over again throughout history. This is a time to really remind people, and then young people don't even know about Holocaust. How horrible is that? And so,
I mean, the whole point of entry that your story has to Holocaust awareness from a completely different point of view is everything that what I'm trying to do with my movie and what you're trying to do with your musical. It's the same thing. It's just a different point of view, and it's very important for us to understand the cultural exchange in conversation. Because what China did is amazing. But I want to go back to this piece about the fact that you're saying that it's the classical musicians really who were, and we'll talk about Violins of Hope in just a second, but who came to your country, who trained your first generation. But of course, before they came, the Chinese had classical music. They had their own classical music.
Correct.
And certainly the Chinese opera and all that entails. And I love that you've incorporated elements of Chinese opera in your musical, because of course it wouldn't make any sense if you didn't, And you talk about a little bit how you have incorporated the different pitches and how people make vocal patterns in Chinese opera, but tell us more about that, and tell us if you're going to be incorporating the different staging elements of Chinese opera, as well as the craftsmanship, tradesmen. I mean, there's so much to talk about with Chinese opera alone.
Yeah, true.
I'd like to hear from you.
Yes, in the musical, we're trying to promote Asian American, Jewish American, race relations, but it's not about Jewish, not about China. It's actually, this is about humans, right? And I wanted to promote classical music in this because I'm classically trained, and this is everything to do with my career, with the careers of many Chinese classical musicians in the world. Many of them don't even know, and Jewish classical musicians. But the thing is, I need to promote Chinese culture as well, because every single music project of mine, has something to do with promoting U.S., China, and the Western world to have better cultural understanding, cultural exchange. Gosh, had I known about the U.S.-China relations today, I would have started this 10 years ago. But it's important to promote Chinese music, to mention traditional Chinese music. You know, Peking opera, particularly in this case, is an art form that that really reached to the peak. And you know, if you were the emperor of Qing Dynasty, you have to be an expert of Peking opera. You know, you have to be a very sophisticated performer and audience. So in this musical, we have a character by the name of Tan Hua. She's the mother of a young child who's studying classical music with the Jewish refugee musicians, and her husband was killed by the Japanese occupation army, and her opera theater was bombed, and then she could not perform. She refused to perform for the Japanese invaders, but then she does sing about her hope for the next generation of Chinese, looking for hope in a Western direction and learning new things, learning classical music. And she felt that there must be some magical power in classical music that can really influence the European culture. But in the musical, we make her sing a little bit. You know, I demonstrate this sometimes, you know, in other webinars. In Chinese Peking opera, they have this this type of stylized reading or speaking. If they say "I do," they will say "I do," sort of thing, just to sort of express themselves in a Peking opera style. And we made that in English, and then it was a very interesting experiment. And our actress, you know, currently in our current cast, of course, she's not a Peking opera singer, but she did a great job. And we want to bring people closer. You know, you probably felt Peking opera being so foreign and so weird and strange. Same to me. You know, I grew up with that stuff. I don't understand half of it, but it's human art. It's human creativity, and I think there's interconnection between classical music and every other style of music making.
Absolutely. And from my understanding about Peking opera is that's just one element of the rules and the etiquette of following the art form, because you have other rules about how the stage is set, the kinds of where different characters are allowed to go on the set, what character is allowed to wear. And then of course you have this tradesman craftsman experience where you are not even allowed to play certain roles unless you've trained under someone for 20, 40 years. I mean, it's an extraordinary challenge to become a Peking opera singer, right? Yeah, so well, it'll be exciting to see that brought closer to an audience to have a better understanding and appreciation of Peking opera. Let's talk about Violins of Hope. What can you tell me about Violins of Hope?
Yes, Violins of Hope is our official partner. We're announcing our official partnership in May of 2021. And as a matter of fact, I just had a long conversation with Afshi Weinstein, who is the current president. So father and son team, they're both violin makers, Afshi and Amnon Weinstein of Israel. They're now based in Istanbul, Turkey. And they actually purchased and then did a lot of research and restored many instruments, survived the Nazi concentration camp. And in 2020, they actually just had a new acquisition of a Shanghai Jewish ghetto violin, one of the refugees brought to Shanghai ghetto from Austria. So we're actually collaborating with them to bring the Violins of Hope exhibition education programs, you know, into schools and university departments and classroom enrichment projects and museums and libraries, you name it, community centers. So they will bring these instruments, and I tested them, you know, when I first met Afshi, who's the owner of the collection. You know, I was just playing around in the great instruments, and then 30 seconds later, I was having goosebumps because these instruments belong to the souls and the innocent people of the Jewish community in Europe. And us classical musicians, we feel the interconnection between previous owners of every historic instrument, and I feel like it's a powerful layer of expression added to our live production. So the Shanghai Ghetto violin will be definitely featured on stage when the musical is performed. Can you imagine Broadway theater? You sit in the audience, you hear the music, musical instrument that was once played for executions and for the Nazi entertainment, and then survived the concentration camp, bringing people back to the 1930s and really feel connected with these talented and unfortunate refugees, and then really inspire the younger generation. So we're looking forward to touring with Violence Hope exhibition and education programs. We also have many other U.S., China, and Holocaust and Second World War scholars.
Uh-oh, I've lost you. I've lost you completely. I see you, and I don't hear anything you're saying, Xiang. Oh my goodness, this is terrible. Oh, there we go. Okay, you're back. You're back.
Yes. Yes.
This is live.
Did I miss anything?
Instagram Live it's all in beast.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad you're back. So I missed the last few pieces of what you said, but I'm sure our audience heard that. But you'll be touring with Violence of Hope, which is wonderful. That's great. So let's talk about Shanghai Sonatas specifically. So tell us, the story and how you met Betty and Betty's story and how you decided that this was going to be the story you wanted to tell and spend what? How many years of your life is it now? 3-4 years of your life trying to,
Yes.
bring this to other people with whom you can collaborate.
Yes, I mean this production it's based on the untold stories. It's based on the true memoirs written by the Jewish refugee who went to Shanghai. Betty Gorbenchikov is one of the world's most interviewed Shanghai Jewish refugees. She was there when she was a young, 11-year-old, and she got married in Shanghai. Spent 12, 15 years in Shanghai, and then later came to the United States. And so we really did a lot of research for about a year and a half, and we have an amazing book writer, Alan Goodson, who is Jewish American and who's a wonderful classical music lover, and his language skills in Yiddish, German, English, obviously, brought to the production enormous values. And then we have a wonderful lyricist and just so many great collaborating geniuses. And then I chose musical theater as an art form because we want to have a larger audience, a wider audience. Musical theater, there's a lot of singing, dancing, and storytelling, but we also want to make sure we integrate classical music live performance. So then by the time the audience leave the theater, they will say, what was that? Oh my God, what a hybrid production. And we also want to bring people to different places, and so there's going to be projection art and a beautiful set design, custom design, and musical theater is very entertaining. But we're trying to follow the history and follow the research. So the musical styles will range from classical, Western classical music, to Jewish, klezmer music, Chinese traditional music. We talked about Peking opera, musical theater, big band, jazz. All these things were actually heard in the big Paris of the East, Shanghai, in the 1930s. Shanghai was this colorful, crazy, sinful city of the East. And you can imagine, at the time, everybody from all over the world, from all over China, went to Shanghai, like in New York City today, prior to the pandemic. And, with so many colorful cultures in one big melting pot, I think this is going to be a very entertaining production for people from all walks of life.
Right. I think that, musical theater, it's been known as kind of show tune place and happy, uplifting stories and all that. But the important, truly meaningful stories, there's so much room for so much more. Always has been, always will be. The band's Visit, just a couple of years ago, the musical that was written, of course, by David Yazbek and Igmar Moses. This was, the first time in, I think, a very long time that we actually got to hear classical music being performed on stage by one of the characters. And so you have that same opportunity that you've created with your musical, to have them do that as well. That's really exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, musical theater, most people don't know, it's incredibly difficult. It sounds very easy. It seems very pop, pop culture. And oh gosh, cannot compare to opera. I'm a classically trained musician. I'm a producer of large events. I know how difficult it is. And now I'm actually creating it. It's even more difficult.
Right.
So it's very universal, and it's also very American. So I'm looking forward to introducing our American artists and artistry to the world, as to show, we're still really the leaders in performing arts, in my humble opinion.
Sure. No, I understand. I appreciate that. I mean, it's so important for us to continue to tell the story, to make sure that younger generations understand what the Holocaust was. It wasn't that long ago, and that particularly the Jewish and Chinese connection, the cultural exchange of what happened, is something that isn't talked about when students are learning Holocaust history. And of course, in our country today, I don't know how it is in China, but right now, there are only 13, maybe 14 states in the US that are required to teach Holocaust history in public schools. And fortunately, that's changed now. We have a mandate. Carolyn Maloney, a representative from New York State, has written a bill, and it is to require that all 50 states will be teaching Holocaust education in their public schools, which is very important. And I really hope that this segment, which is extraordinary about the Chinese, the cultural exchange, is incorporated into that.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to, as I said, this is not about Jewish or Chinese. This is about any people that's hurt. We all get hurt. Okay. And then I also think, it happens to be the Chinese and the Jewish communities, they're deeply rooted in classical music nowadays, for whatever reason. But it doesn't matter. 50 years later, if it's the Indian community, Pakistan community, who cares, right? It's the humans race that we need to really work with each other in good and bad times. And then 75 years ago, things were much, much worse than now. I know we're all suffering. There's so much suffering in the world. But I think it's important to also gently promote world peace through all the artistic endeavors, and in times like this, particularly between the U.S. and China, I can't find a better project to promote U.S.-China relations through true stories like these things. And we're looking forward to collaborating with all the educational institutions moving forward. People are calling me from Chicago, San Francisco, LA, Boston, Shanghai, waiting for the production to launch. We're finishing up the final few songs and the final 15% of the book. We're going to be launching the musical in May of 2021. Please go to shanghaisonatas.com and sign up for update newsletters so we could keep you informed. And a lot of museums.
That's where people could donate there as well, isn't that? Because right now you're still nonprofit status, isn't that correct?
Yes, we're definitely a nonprofit right now, and we hope you will consider to support us either as a collaborating organization or as a private donor. Anything helps. It takes a village.
Absolutely. So people would go to shanghaisonatas.com and they can find the donate buttons there. Right?
Thank you so much. Yes.
Oh,
Happy Hanukkah.
Absolutely. We talk about today and the pandemic, and it's wonderful to know that you've been able to carry on with the work that you are all doing as a collaborative team during the pandemic. You had your last workshop when? In February, right before everything shut down, is that correct?
Yeah, luckily, right before the pandemic, we had our latest workshop performance in Delaware, at the University of Delaware. I'm not political, but our famous alumnus is Joe Biden. So we're hoping that with the new administration that they could continue to support the arts and support especially Holocaust awareness, now from a completely different perspective, also mobilizing the Asian American community.
Sure. But I want to go back to some of the lyrics that you actually have in Shanghai Sonatas, and really think about the pandemic and all that we're going through, because so many people have lost so much, and so many people also have been able to persevere, carry on, and have not been as affected as other communities. But you have this one lyric that I just want to read to everybody. The year I lost everything, I don't sing the blues. And this is coming from people who were persecuted, people who were who were truly abused by other human beings, as opposed to this horrible virus that we're all vulnerable to. But if you really think about the fact that Holocaust survivors, refugees are saying, the year I lost everything, I don't sing the blues, I think that perhaps we can actually take a lesson from that today and try that on for size for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so universal. I mean, just like a lot of, theater or literature pieces, these two stories, they touch us so deeply because we can immediately relate to these humans. We have this fear for people who look differently, and then we automatically, as human beings, we have this natural sort of reaction. But the thing is, if we just look a little further, the similarities between all peoples, they're enormous. I can't stop thinking about, just Christmas Eve Chinese dinner for the Jewish community, but the similarities between all different communities on family, education, values, and all of that. Now classical music. I'm a classical music promoter. I also deeply believe the art of classical music, and that has a strong impact on all peoples and a unifying power on all people. So I'm really hoping that to bring this production and our Violence of Hope education projects to every corner. We're also hoping for a Broadway success one day, but that's only one of the goals, because Broadway is a different beast, and also is tourists with money in New York.
Right.
I like to bring this to other parts of the country and the world as well.
Oh, for sure. The other lyric that I want to point out that I just was so moved by is and this is from your finale, which, by the way, of course, I learned that your favorite composer was Beethoven, and December, so it's the month of Beethoven's birth, even though we don't know what day he was born on. But bravo, Beethoven. But you say, everyone is welcome in a world of song. Yeah. This is so beautiful, because for me, and I'm sure you feel the same way, but music is just the great equalizer. Music is our universal language on every level.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. As a creator, this is really rewarding to hear from people like you. Yes, we believe in that, and we think anything can wait, but music should really move forward. People should be singing, people should be listening to music, and should be able to connect through music. And
what are you listening to right now? What's on your playlist right now?
Oh, what I'm listening to? Oh my goodness! I'm sorry to say, I'm listening to holiday music. I need a lot of holiday music.
Great.
Because when I first came to the United States as a Chinese classical music student, I didn't hear Christmas and holiday music and Hanukkah music. But here in the United States, it's so amazing that we have the world culture right in our backyard. We are the only country that has almost every single culture and authentic culture in our backyard. And I'm enjoying hearing the musical celebration of so many cultures. And so, I mean, we have snow right now, so it really starts to look like Christmas.
Oh, that's so nice. That's wonderful. You're in Delaware right now?
I'm in Delaware, yes.
Beautiful. So, and you are a professor at the University of Delaware. So I want to give a big shout out to the University of Delaware, because they're so lucky to have you.
You're very kind. Thank you.
And what about, I would love for our guests to know where to find you and your music, where they can hear you play. You're a world-class musician, Xiang.
You're very kind. Everybody, I paid Beth to say that. My website is xianggao.net, xianggao.net. And I have music. I'm interested in so many different styles of music, and from classical to jazz to funk to world music. And so I'm just really lucky to be filled by music.
It's beautiful. That's beautiful. It reminds me of, I think not too long ago, maybe a year or two ago, at Disney Concert Hall. I live in Los Angeles. We went to hear Isaac Perlman playing klezmer music. And he has this group of people that he brings together, musicians that he brings together, called In the Fiddler's House. And it's just, it's so much fun to hear world-class musicians playing really the peasants' music, klezmer music. And it's extraordinary. It's wonderful. Well, I commend you and applaud you for everything that you're doing. I'm grateful to our friend Ken Fisher who introduced me to you. And it's so fun getting to know you. I can't wait for this pandemic to be over so we can actually meet in person.
Same here.
I just want to encourage everyone to visit shanghaisonatas.com. You can learn all about the musical. You can get updated on their progress because you are in the workshop phase and, you know, gaining steam toward getting to a production phase. Yes.
Yes.
And go to shanghaisonatas.com. You can donate there, help Xiang move the train, move it forward so you can get to your next destination. And thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, everybody out there. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody this Sunday. We have our guest is Philip Dinkelacker, an incredible historian in Berlin. So tune in on Sunday at 10 Standard Time. And until we meet soon. All right, everybody. Bye.